It's just ridiculous to do so. You're not comparing apples to apples. Same is true with COVID-19. Okay? Bottom line. You're going to find that different countries have different mortality ratings. Why is that? Case in point. In my county, and it's a sad thing to say, but our first COVID death was someone who fell and hit his head. All right? So it was diagnosed as a blunt force trauma, but chalked up to COVID 19 because the man was ill at the time of his fall. They don't say anything about his age, they don't say anything about his condition. But as somebody who is respiratorily challenged, okay, I have a bad respiratory system. I get allergies every year, and I have trouble breathing. And I know what it's like to stand up quickly and to just have the oxygen deplete from your brain and to basically fall down back into bed. I'm sure we've all done it in the morning when we've woken up. But I remember back when my mom used to douse herself with Johnson's baby powder, shower to shower, talcum powder, whatever you want to call it. And she used to gussy up her hair with Aquanet. And it was tough for me because the whole house would reek of this powder and this aerosol. And it would stick in my lungs, and actually, I would have to gasp for breath. So I am very sympathetic for people who have trouble breathing. I am very sympathetic for people who have trouble assimilating oxygen into their blood supply. I get it, okay? But if you want to count this person as a COVID death, and believe me, I'm all for it, you got to go back and count every single blunt force trauma victim who ever had the flu, every single blunt force trauma victim who ever had H1N1. I hope I got that right. Every single person who ever had blunt force trauma who had, that was the swine flu, avian flu, MARS, SARS, whatever, okay? Ebola, it doesn't make a difference. If you're gonna hold it true for one virus, you gotta hold it true for all. What do? You go back and dig up the graves and test them and say, we had no idea this person actually had H1N1 and they died from blunt force trauma. We have to assume that they fell over and hit their head because of the virus. That's kind of scary thinking. It's dangerous thinking. People have heart attacks all the time. People die from cancer all the time. My mother, God rest her soul, died from lung cancer. She probably got it from just the pounds and pounds of talcum powder that she inhaled over many, many years of usage. We now know that talcum powder, that you get talc from the same mineral area that you get asbestos, right? Well, my mom probably sucked in a whole bunch of asbestos and got mesothelioma or something to that nature. The point is that when my mom was diagnosed and she had gone through her series of chemo, and they finally came to the point of telling her she had 6 to 8 months to live, and they were spot on. She lived towards the end of that range, thank God. But let me tell you, it was at a point where if she got any respiratory condition at all, it would have been fatal. Absolutely, positively fatal. In her case, it probably would have been a blessing because it was a tough way to go, dying from cancer in Calvary Hospital. It was very difficult for me to be there with her when she did pass. But the point remains that we were told that while she was undergoing chemo and while she was undergoing end-of-life palliative care, if she got any kind of respiratory illness, seasonal flu, that would have been it for her. My daughter, she got the seasonal flu, flu B, in 2018. She woke up in the middle of the night with 103 temperature, and believe it or not, she went temporarily blind. Freaked me out as a parent, freaked her out as a person who had this. My daughter went reeling backwards. We were in the upper level of our home. She went flying to the banister. In the middle of the night, I was surprised, as groggy as I was able to grab her and save her within seconds of flipping over the handrail and falling to what would have definitely been a severe injury, quite possibly even death. Would I have thought to categorize her as a flu epidemic death? I don't think so. But if we're doing that now for COVID, we have to go back and cook the books for every single virus. Yes, even the seasonal viruses that happen every year. So seasonal viruses are anywhere from 20 to 80,000 a year, which I believe they are. Correct me if I'm wrong. We got to start doubling those because people who suffer from heart attacks but were never tested for seasonal flu must be assumed to have died from a heart attack from seasonal flu. That's what we're doing now. That's dangerous thinking. It's only promotional thinking for a certain agenda. It's dangerous, dangerous thinking. But you see, stats don't lie. Stats are cold. Stats are hard. People lie. There's an easy way to fix this. All you have to do is average out how many people die from heart attacks every year, how many people die from cancer-related deaths every year, how many people die from comorbidities such as hypertension or diabetes or asthmatic or emphysema, smoking-related deaths every year. And let me tell you something. If those deaths over March and April have dropped and COVID deaths have increased, I think it's fair to say that there's a crossover there because you're either winning the war on cancer and heart disease, okay? Because these levels are not going to drop on their own. There has to be some mitigating circumstances. These levels are not going to drop on their own. So if we can prove that cancer-related deaths and that hypertension and cardiovascular-related deaths have decreased during this time period, it's only fair to assume that they've been thrown into the camp of COVID deaths. Is that fair? Can't tell you, okay? But if you're going to categorize it here, you got to go back in time and categorize it for every other virus in the history of mankind. It's kind of like Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and Jose Canseco. You got to go back and you have to assume that if Roger Maris and Babe Ruth were able to play with performance-enhancing drugs, their numbers would have been raised also. Bottom line, that's fair and balanced. And let me tell you something else. It's also objective. It's an objective truth. You can't have one without the other. You can't die twice, okay? At least that I know of. You might want to include Lazarus there, but that's another story for another day. But you can't die twice. So when I look back and I think about stats, different countries are going to categorize COVID deaths differently. What you're going to see here in America is you're going to see people rushing to categorize people's COVID deaths that are unproven. They're just assumed. And they're going to be done in certain states and not others. What you're going to really see is people in certain states with a very high mortality rate, okay? And other states with a very low mortality rate. You're going to see countries with very high mortality rates, and you see countries with very low mortality rates. That's because nobody is conforming to protocol as to how to categorize a COVID death as a COVID death or how to categorize a cardiovascular death or a cancer death as a cardiovascular or cancer death. Bottom line, these statistics are politicized. Remember, statistics don't lie, people lie. There's a way around it, like I just told you. You can take a look at the statistics for these other comorbidities, and if they've dropped like a rock over the last 2 months, you can assume they've been pumped into the COVID camp. Dangerous thinking, and quite frankly, not nice, because there's an old saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. You're playing with people's lives here. You're playing with their livelihoods. It's not fair and it ain't right. If we're all going to get together, we have to think objectively. We have to do what's right for each other, not what's right for our political system, not what's right for our governmental system, what's right for us as a people as a whole. I have several other commentaries that I would like to make. Again, I don't prep any of this stuff for you. It's pretty much coming off the top of my head. If I am making errors, whether historical or medical, I do apologize. But again, I think the gist of what I'm talking about does make sense. If it doesn't, you're free to comment. I want to let you know that there are not many of you listening out there, but there apparently is one subscriber. And it's funny, what I talked about yesterday was actually in the news today. I take zero credit for that. But I do think that you have to have your finger on the pulse of reality if you're going to live your life. I'm going to say it again. You have to have your finger on the pulse of reality if you're going to live a normal, okay, life. Don't let fear be a veil that's draped over your eyes. See through the fear, think through the fear, be through the fear. Fear is more contagious than this virus. Fear is what's going to kill more people than this virus is. That's my belief. Anyway, I have several other things to speak about. That is for another day. We'll see if this gets any look-sees. Probably not, but got to get it off my chest. You know why? Because I'm cooped here. I got nothing better to do. I got all these thoughts and nobody to say them to. I hope everything that I've said has made sense. Remember, statistics don't lie, people lie. Don't let people pull fear over your eyes and convince you any other way. Look for the facts. Look for the facts, okay? The facts will lead you to security. Don't look for facts that will lead to your subjective truth. Look for facts that will lead to an objective truth, okay? Take care. God bless. Hope to see you again sometime soon. And things are looking better. Think positive. Bye-bye.